Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast with your host, Dr. Tony Wong. Today, I'm with Vicky Demas. Vicky, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, Tony. Thank you for having me. I'm Vicky Demas. I am currently the CEO of identifeye Health.
So, what was your journey like to becoming the CEO of your own company?
Oh, it's been a long and convoluted journey, so it wasn't necessarily something I planned or aspired to do. I'm a chemical engineer, physical chemist by training. I actually went to get a PhD at Berkeley primarily because I wanted to apply to the astronaut program. But somewhere along the lines, I fell in love with switching from being an engineer, which was something I loved since I was a child, to really leveraging engineering skills and technology to build tools, products, and platforms to help clinicians help patients. I spent the last 20 or so years doing that in a few different settings, and eventually all paths led to what is now identifeye Health.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember my background. I was actually a physical chemist myself. I used to do single molecule research way back in the day. That's like a very niche area. And then I switched over to machine learning. But yeah, it's we have like similar paths. So really excited to see someone else with that same journey. Speaking of like journeys, like how has yours been? Like, did you have to pivot a lot? Did you hit a lot of road bumps along the way? Give us a little bit more info on how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would call them bumps, but there is a little bit, I call it maybe happenstance, right? At any given point in time, I was always doing something that I was super excited about. I was learning, I felt I was contributing, and then something would happen. Either I would meet someone and just take a turn in the journey. For sure, like even when we're looking at, I speak of the last 20 or so years of building products, I said in the life sciences and healthcare. I worked in magnetic resonance. I developed diagnostics, in vitro diagnostics for infectious disease. I pivoted to working at Google, where I actually got recruited without knowing what I would be working on. Eventually, I found out it was to leverage some of the AI tools and infrastructure that Google had developed that for its core business to solve problems worth solving, which included the life sciences and healthcare space. So there we got to do pretty much anything you can imagine, both in interventional and diagnostic products, including medical imaging, nanoparticle platforms, and quite a few other fun things. And then I also, from there, because of my connection and in one of my early mentors at Google, I ended up at a company in cancer diagnostics, leveraging to build a powerful database for cancer screening based on cell-free DNA. And it was also a little bit of a happenstance how I ended up at about 3.5 years ago to what was called Tesseract Health, which I came in and I'll just say took over, reset, et cetera, and developed what is now identifeye Health.
Very cool. Tell us like a little bit more about the industry you're in. Like what happened in the past year? Was there a lot of movement in terms of like investments into AI and also like where are we at right now, like AI in the healthcare life science space?
Yeah, that's definitely for sure has been an exciting space. I think AI in healthcare in general, I think is fascinating. I'm really excited to be part of the industry. Of course, I think AI applications in healthcare have been expanding. The same for new companies, investments, et cetera. The area that is super exciting, obviously, I think for a while now, AI and things like medical imaging, decision-making augmentation, especially when you're looking at tasks like image classification, image segmentation, et cetera, it's already, I'll say, accepted and that AI can do better than humans. Because again, some of these tasks are so tedious and prone to error. But the part that is really, truly exciting is really seeing the promise of AI to really extract information, I'll say, beyond what meets the eye, helping, for example, prognosticate disease outcomes, treatment response to therapies, et cetera. For sure, really exciting to be a part of the space.
Tell me more about this company. It looks like you guys are backed by Foresight Capital. Can you give us a little bit more info on like how you receive funding? What was that journey like?
Yeah, Foresight Capital put in, I'll say, the biggest amount of funding in the last funding round, and they are a really big player in the NDI space. I think recently they've had some really large funds, close to about $1 billion, including the launching of Sarah Therapeutics. Foresight actually, so first of all, maybe one step back. I actually was recruited specifically when Foresight was investing in the space to actually come in and really transform or take that original idea and build a company around it. So I didn't do the fundraise for the last round of what was Tesseract Health, which we rebranded to identifeye. But it was actually Jonathan Rothberg, who was the founder of the original, say, platform, that reached out to me when he was bringing in the last capital round to help or have me take over and run the company.
Very cool. So how many people are currently in your company right now?
We are 48.
And where are you guys based?
We have about a third of the team out in the Bay Area, about a third in Guilford, Connecticut, close to New Haven, and about a third of the team is fully remote distributed.
Gotcha. And walk us through like what do you guys build?
Maybe I'll speak a little bit first of what is it that identifeye is trying to do, and then speak a little bit about our products and our pipeline. In general, I'll say what I tell people about identifeye is that we really believe that the eyes are a window to not only the soul, but to the body and health. And we believe that the retina is really in position to become the non-invasive diagnostic platform of our times. So we're leveraging AI and automation to really reimagine the retinal imaging and make it more accessible at scale, cheaper, et cetera. We're starting with diabetic retinopathy, really aiming to avoid preventable vision loss, and then from there move to systemic diseases and eventually to support personalized medicine for overall health and wellness.
Is that the same type of technology where like I remember reading the news a long time ago where someone took a picture of another person and they noticed like there's something wrong with their eyes, like it turned red or something like that, and they said that that person had cancer? Or does that is that kind of related?
I can't necessarily say that I am familiar with the reference, but I'll tell you that it is, I know of a ton of cases personally, but obviously in the literature where retinal specialists and researchers are able to diagnose quite a few different things by just looking into people's eyes, like even through an ophthalmoscope. For example, people have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in an ophthalmic screening exam. And it's always been a little bit more of I don't want to call it esoteric, but it's not necessarily data that is accessible to the public. About, gosh, now 2017, 2018, it was one of the first publications in this space showing that with AI, there's a ton of systemic biomarkers and things you would never expect just looking at a retinal photo, again, with an untrained human to really determine. That really created the space of, again, as I said, leveraging AI to extract information, even beyond things that actually make sense. Like, for example, we can see vasculature, tortuosity of vessels, vessel density, et cetera. These are all known now to be associated with cardiovascular risk, hypertension, et cetera. But even things that we can't necessarily pick out as biomarkers ourselves.
And what type of accuracy does this type of technique give you as opposed to something else that people usually use?
Okay, so here in particular, I'll speak a little bit while in general we speak about AI and extracting this type of information, the way we develop products, it is very disciplined. For example, our first AI screening product is going to be specifically for diabetic retinopathy. So in this particular case, we really focus on the sensitivity and specificity of the test. Those are the metrics that we really are trying to set targets for. And those are usually in the 90s. In our space, there are predicates, and that's a little bit where we're setting the targets. And as a background, how we actually show what is the baseline performance, we run clinical studies where we are using our camera, we're capturing images, we're using AI to analyze the images and determine whether the patient, well, the participant in the study, has more than mild diabetic retinopathy, which would mean that they need to be referred. Then that same participant gets dilated, gets imaged by the standard of care, and the results are shown to 3 independent human graders to actually decide. And there's adjudication, et cetera, and that forms the baseline comparison. And that's how we practically prove that we meet the minimum sensitivity and specificity thresholds. But as I said, those are typically in the range of 90%
Oh, that's very
for
exciting.
such tests.
Like what's next in that market? What's like the next hot thing in terms of identifying using like an vision-based solutions in order to identify diseases? Like what's the next hot thing?
I'll tell you from my perspective, obviously, I think one of the big things here, and there have been quite a few companies in the last, I'll say probably about 10 years, just focusing on AI and think of them as the Microsoft Office, right? I'm building software to work with someone else's platform. What I think is really exciting in the space, and this is what we are enabling at identifeye Health, is really leveraging AI to also make the capturing of good quality data super easy so that retinal imaging and capturing of the data can become ubiquitous. And then we're starting to analyze. So obviously making that whole diabetic retinopathy end-to-end screening super accessible so we can solve a really big unmet need is something that I'm personally very excited. This is our mission at identifeye. But then obviously beyond that, you can start thinking beyond diabetic retinopathy, other ophthalmic diseases, cardiovascular, especially those are, we're starting with people living with diabetes. You have hypertension, cardiovascular risk as comorbidities, and definitely a lot of potential to help a lot of people.
Walk us through like your flagship product. Like what did you guys build that's super cool?
Okay, so the flagship product relies on the core platform that I mentioned for capturing good quality images. It's a fundus camera, and it sounds simple, but the beauty of it is the AI and automation that makes capturing that image super easy. How do we do that, or what is it that we do? So to take the photo of the fundus, and that's the back of your eye, you actually need to focus through the pupil. So it's like looking through a keyhole. And also the patient needs to be looking at the right space so that you can capture the right field of view. So to do that, we actually, again, like we're leveraging AI to really do pupil tracking, gaze tracking, detect blinking, et cetera, all the types of things that when it comes to working with a patient eventually, it simplifies the workflow and makes it so that you don't really need to have a trained photographer per se to actually capture that photo. So that's our flagship product, is the identifeye system, we call it, or the identifeye camera. And around that, we're building a series of applications based on AI to then analyze the images for different types of disease. But of course, as I said, we are working with the FDA and we're having very specific claims the way that we're building our products beyond that.
And you guys are you guys in trials with like optical stores, or like where are you guys at right now in terms of the product line?
Yeah, so the camera, we finished the development of the camera and we had a 510(k) submission at the end of last year. The FDA actually gave us an exemption, which means that we can market the device when we are ready to market the device. To do that, obviously, we did a lot of the development work that goes into that. They have the submission package ready. We did a ton of testing and development work. However, in addition to that, we have been using our cameras in a series of ophthalmic and primary care sites to collect data. And that has been super fun. We've learned a ton. And nothing is more exciting than getting feedback on things that people love about the device. We're really very excited about that. We're also collecting the data that we need to develop our first algorithm. So that's happening in parallel.
That's cool. So your device, does it have to be really close to the face when you're like taking in the data, or can it be like further away? Like how far away is this device from like someone?
So the device, think of it as you lean in, and it's almost like a VR headset, right? Like you actually put your face in it and you have to rest because we have to be relatively close. Like it's hard to really focus and get a good image if you're too far away. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. So
So you lean into it. Yeah.
okay, so usually I go to the optometrist, and there's always like these like it's like a roll of like different devices, and I got to put my face next to this thing, and it shoots air in my face, or like it shoots.
Doesn't shoot anything. This it doesn't really do anything. It's you're sitting there, you're relaxing. If anything, actually, in some of our user testing, it was so comfortable that some of the participants were actually like zoning off a little bit. But this is, yeah, it's very comfortable, doesn't really touch your eye, it doesn't need dilation. It's all straightforward. And it goes back to, I like to say, we've applied consumer product development principles to a medical device. So really what's super exciting about it is that all of the things that I said about automation mean that with a very simple app, the operator of the system can just run it without needing a lot of training or retaining a ton of information so that they know what to click, et cetera. It's the app really walks you through, speaks to the patient, and yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a much better user experience than the machine that shoots air in my face every single time I go in to see the eye doctor, because I always have a panic attack and it takes like forever for me to do both eyes. So that's really nice that it's as comfortable as you're saying. So if let's just say, for instance, if I'm interested in learning more about this, like how would I reach out to you?
So one is find us on LinkedIn or through our website. And the name of the company is Identify Health. And we've replaced the Y in identify with the word I, because we look in the eye to identify different types of disease or eventually maps to health and wellness.
So if I were like a young person in my career that wanted to couple like healthcare life sciences with AI, what's like the best place to start?
Obviously, I'm a little biased, and I really think that especially the potential in medical imaging is huge. But maybe I'll take one step back and say, in general, if you're going to go into the whole entrepreneurship, find a problem that is worth solving and that you can really feel inspired and that it can inspire your team. Build an amazing team and support them and speak with the right people in this space. But I think again, like it can be a little bit personal. For me, having worked in medical diagnostics quite a bit, I really fell in love with this platform because of its potential to really democratize access. So it's a little bit different. I've worked in diagnostics. I'm very proud of some of the products we've launched, but subsidizing them is almost impossible. And for something like the test that we're speaking about, once we deploy the platforms and systems buy them, et cetera, we can definitely afford to subsidize for people who don't have insurance. Because of the way we don't have consumables, et cetera, et cetera. It depends on what drives everyone, but I say don't try to do something you're not passionate about because it's really hard to put the energy and thought that is needed to really drive it.
So what's next for identifeye? Do you guys have anything on the horizon that you guys can announce?
What's next is that we're getting ready and we're really excited to start helping patients soon. So that's just the yes, more to come.
Great. Thanks so much for being on the show. And until next time, stay curious.
Thank you for having me.